Google actually makes quite different SEO for various niches. Like for travel, it's one thing. For PDF segment, it's a different thing.
Before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, you can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free. And now, back to today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SaaS SEO Show. I'm your host, George Hasiotis, and today I'm very happy to be joined by Andriy Terentyev. Andriy is an enterprise SEO specialist focusing on online travel and e-commerce. He started working at Kiwi.com as an SEO lead from level 0 in 2019. Some of the achievements since then for Kiwi.com are that organic traffic exceeded pre-COVID-19 level in May of 2021. Non-branded organic traffic increased by 1,100% in 2021 and 230% in 2022. And last but not least, total number of keywords for Kiwi.com increased by 320%. And that's all very, astonishing and quite of a track record, I must say. So I'm very happy to be joined by Andriy and discuss all these very interesting things. Andriy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, George, for this nice introduction.
So, it's your track record. I'm just here to read it. So before we get started, can you please share a few things about you and your background? What brought you to Kiwi.com? What did you do before that? And if you want, you can get started even from the beginning. Like, how did you get into this SEO world in the first place?
Well, I'd say I would name myself as jack of all trades when it comes to startups. Before coming to SEO, I was working in various C roles and early stage startups since basically the late 90s. And back then I launched the first hotel booking website in Ukraine. I'm originally from Ukraine. I lived and worked in 5 countries: Ukraine, the United States, UK, New Zealand, Germany, Czech Republic recently, now Spain. And also I even worked in Moscow for half a year, about 20 years ago. Then I started to do my first SEO experiments basically in late 90s, right out of college. And SEO was always as a knowledge domain, has been always on my radar. Even though I worked in other areas. But I really got into SEO when I was managing the hotelscan.com. It's a hotel meta search. And at that time, it was a VC-funded startup where I was working as a chief operating officer. And my big area of involvement was the SEO team. That's how I learned a lot and started to go into this much deeper. So then when I got into Kiwi in 2018, I basically started with SEO from level 0. Unfortunately, fortunately for me, company didn't do any SEO optimization since its inception. So the non-branded traffic was, when I measured it, when we started, was 0.08%. So everything that we got was only like Kiwi.com keyword. That's it. There was nothing else in the Google Search Console. And gradually we worked through the sort of technical SEO part, leveling up the field, allowing to do some heavy lifting on the SEO part, and we started to grow the organic traffic as well. So now we passed about over 50,000 clicks per day on organic, which is quite nice. And we recently passed the first million clicks per month only on Google. But when you count all organic traffic, it's much more. So it's been quite a roller coaster. It's quite challenging to drive SEO in a big organization like Kiwi, with a lot of different teams, a lot of different stakeholders. But it was fun. It is fun.
Can I ask for people? If we could take a step back for people who haven't heard of Kiwi.com before? Can you please let us know what Kiwi is all about, and who is the typical user?
Sure. It's Kiwi.com is a flight booking engine. Not only flights, but also we provide booking for trains and buses as well. And Kiwi's unique feature is the ability to interline the flights or the airlines that are not connected in any agreements. So what we can do is actually we index all of the airline websites and come up with very unique itineraries from that allow basically covering all world from A to B.
Okay, so that sounds very, very difficult to begin with, because with all these flights and all these things happening, when it comes to airline companies, that sounds very difficult, and I assume that this also adds a very high level of complexity on the SEO side of things. But a question I had, which is actually something I'm very curious about: what websites do you compete against on the SERPs, considering that Kiwi is the, as I see it, like intermediate between airline companies and people who want to book a cheap flight ticket? So who is your competitor, in other words, on the SERPs, who may not be your business competitor, but you compete with them on the SERPs?
Well, the biggest kids on the block is Skyscanner and Kayak, of course. These are the two major companies who are dominating the SERP. Also Expedia, Cheap Flights, Momondo, many other. And there are quite a lot of strong regional competitors as well.
Okay, like some of the companies you mentioned, I know already, and I can only assume that they have very big budgets and they invest heavily when it comes to organic search. So I guess this will make your job more difficult, let's say. And another question that I have for you is with regards to the typical customer lifecycle journey for a person who uses Kiwi.com. I mean, as I see it, people use the product only when they need to book a ticket. So my question, I guess, is it just a one-time thing, or like I happen to search for a flight, I somehow ended up to Kiwi.com, took value out of it, and I forget about it, and I will remember it the next time I will have to book a flight? Or have you found a different way or ways of keeping your users and customers coming back?
Well, the customer retention is really a difficult topic for flights OTAs, because the typical customer is actually doing exactly as you said. They're just booking something that is cheap, or cheapest, or get the cheapest offer, get their flights, and then they might forget about it, and not to have such a big attachment to one company or the other.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, like that's kind of aligned with what I had in mind regarding how the lifecycle journey looks like for a company like Kiwi.com. Now, according to Ahrefs, you get more than 1.4 million visits per month. You also mentioned that it's around 50K clicks per day, which is quite impressive. You joined the company a few years ago. You managed to grow the traffic in very like great levels. What would you say are the main elements of this success?
Well, before I speak about this topic, I just wanted to mention that the level of investments and level of involvement of the whole company in the SEO is probably would be the main driving force and the main success factor, especially for the large companies. If there will be no support from, let's say, top management and middle management across the whole organization, this journey would not be possible. And even the level of investment is secondary to this, because obviously with SEO team, I started myself, so there was like one-man show basically for the first more than the first like 1 year or even more, I think like almost 2 years. And even though it was quite challenging to accomplish everything and to balance all the priorities within the SEO realm, it was a lot of fun because you obviously get some good kicks when you see the traffic growing, even though there was like basically zero before that.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, having the founders of the company and everyone in the company being like all in when it comes to SEO is something important. But are there any other elements that you would say besides that, and the investment, of course, which, as you mentioned, may be secondary, besides having the buy-in from the whole company and having them believe in your vision about the website and organic search and so on, and having the investment, do you think there are any other or do you see any other elements that were critical in your success?
Of course. Well, there are two things. One thing is the engineering expertise and involvement of engineering team, because especially in the early stage of SEO, when the company is just starting, and it's especially necessary for the late starters. Who are just entering a very competitive niches like flight travel, or could be some other e-commerce niche. The buy-in from engineering is really critical, because the more complex the engineering structure is, the more necessary it is to make sure that the engineering teams across all of the company are cooperating.
Okay, I've heard that in some cases, like I can think of G2 right now, where organic search is a very important channel, if not, the most important channel. The SEO team may sit under product. Okay, so it's included, let's say, in the product team and works under the product team. Would you say that a similar structure makes sense for like a company like Kiwi.com, or do you have something like that, or
Yeah.
it works independently and it's included, it works under marketing or growth or whatever?
Well, usually when you start, it's the maybe like 99% or maybe 90% of all the work related to SEO you are doing with product, because you don't start with the backlinks. In this case, especially in the case of Kiwi, because we got accumulated a lot of historical backlinks from various sources, and most of the backlinks are coming from the search results. which was another big challenge for us. I'm probably going to speak about this a bit later.
Sorry, but when you say from the search result, what you're referring to is actually
search
passive?
results, kiwi.com search results, not the search results in Google, but when you search for Kiwi on flights on kiwi.com, there is a link that is generated for each of the search query. And this link is obviously being shared by various companies, individuals, and so on websites. So Kiwi has accumulated over the 8 years of its existence before we started with SEO from 2011. Kiwi got a lot of historical backlinks. I think it's just millions, so the backlinks equity was not the biggest problem for us. The biggest problem for us and the biggest challenge was actually to prepare the proper landing pages that are SEO friendly, to make sure that Google gets the essence of our website and increases our topical authority in the travel sector.
Can I ask you something, Andriy? You mentioned like the landing pages being SEO friendly. Do you think that when it comes to landing pages that serve kind of job to be done intent, I want to book a cheap flight from Berlin to Valencia or whatever, do you think that UX also plays a role there, instead of just having an optimized title tag and meta description and check all the SEO best practices boxes, actually offering a great experience? Do you think that it matters? And if yes, have you run any experiments, and do you have any learnings in that direction?
Well, it's an interesting topic, and of course, UX does play a big role in this, but not initially. So if you start, I would say the majority of the users are not scrolling below the fold. So the main thing to optimize is just the above the fold part with the nice, let's say, hero section, hero image, and nice search form. And good title and meta description, and maybe just initial subtitles and so on. This is the main thing that needs to be taken care of. Anything that is below the fold is also influencing the conversions as well. But I would say if you start, this goes probably lower in priority. And this is probably the hardest part in the enterprise SEO and in the SEO of the big website. It's not what to make and how to make, but the actually priorities of what to make first, and which part of the SEO need to be fixed on the first place, second place, and so on. That's probably the biggest challenge and the biggest time that needs to be where we need to actually balance various things together.
I understand. And I have a question for you. I would like to go back a bit to something you mentioned about Kiwi.com in the beginning, having branded searches. Now, Kiwi.com had, when you joined, and still has a very strong brand with a decent number of monthly branded searches. How much of your overall success would you attribute to the growth of Kiwi, the brand, vs SEO strategies for non-branded searches? Or would you say that at the end of the day, the one feeds the other and they have to grow hand in hand?
Well, the branded searches remained constant throughout my work at Kiwi. So it was maybe about like 10,000 clicks per day, more or less. Maybe 8,000 clicks per day, sometimes 6. During the coronavirus, it was very, very low. We had a very big drop then. But then once the corona is over, that comes back to the same, about 10,000 clicks per day. So the rest of this 30, 20, 40,000 clicks per day, whatever we have on top of it, is non-branded searches.
Okay, it makes sense. Now, many of the keywords you rank for that are non-branded are very competitive. How do you manage to get and maintain visibility for such keywords? For example, cheap flights, which I can only imagine how rough and intense competition may be for a
Yeah,
keyword like that.
it's a bloodbath. That's true. And obviously, it's a long journey. So, like companies like Skyscanner, Kayak, Expedia, they've been investing in this for like millions of dollars in this area for many years. And of course, for us, like as a new company trying to compete with on brand SERP, on non-branded SERP, it's a big challenge. But there are still a lot of opportunities because there are a lot of long tail keywords where you can really start ranking, even though you don't have a lot of let's say a lot of historical background in this. Plus, another thing that I think would really help is actually understanding the niche itself. Because what I find fascinating is that Google treats every niche differently in terms of rankings. So if you know how to rank, let's say, in healthcare versus ranking in, let's say, online travel, the set of the ranking factors that you need to optimize for as a first priority is way different. In travel, one of the biggest things that Google is looking for is the really good performance with great core web vitals, great technical SEO part, because this actually produces much greater effect on the ranks than, let's say, the same core vitals optimization, let's say, in some other niches.
Would you say that this is tied to user experience? Like Google prioritizes user experience for the travel niche?
Yeah, I would say user experience in terms of the technical performance, like fast load, especially on other various countries, and across different markets and so on.
Okay. Does content play any role in the customer journey or in that growth that you have achieved? You have help articles and blog posts. I just, want to understand what's the scope and role of content in, for a company like Kiwi.com.
Content is, of course, important, but it's just important that we need to sort of have approximately the same level of content and quality of content as our competitors. If you sort of reach the same sort of level of detail and the level of topical coverage for your niche, then the other factors like performance come into place.
Okay.
So that's at least experience that I've had with Kiwi. So when we started to actually when we built the, let's say, origin to destination landing pages, which were launched first, with like huge number of combinations, like millions of combinations. So we have done quite crazy things. So we just generated 1 million landing pages, which was against all of the best practices that I've heard of, and just push them immediately to the production. And even though they didn't get indexed immediately, over time, once we fixed a lot of technical issues, it really picked up, and we were able to rank for many of them.
Are you concerned at all about things like, I don't know, thin content with pages, like rolling out pages in bulk, like what you just mentioned?
It's thin content is really a big struggle, especially in the beginning for us. But the way we were able to fix it is to actually provide a lot of unique content, and have approximately the same balance of this content across us versus competition. Plus, add a little bit of more content that doesn't that our competitors do not have, like for example, travel tips.
Okay, that's a good one. Also, connected to that, are you concerned at all when rolling out pages like that about crawl budget? And
it's
if
a big
yes,
challenge.
yeah, what actions do you take to ensure that Google will keep crawling all of the important pages on your website?
Well, there are two things. Of course, the backlinks. And you need to actually balance the backlinks and do very good work on interlinking, because interlinking for such a huge amount of pages is quite a challenge. There is a lot of math that needs to be done to make sure that you sort of sculpt the link equity across the huge mass of pages, and making sure that the most important pages for you are going to the top. But besides that, it's also funneling the historical backlinks into historical backlink equity into this landing pages. So that was the redirect system was also quite complex, and we've spent a lot of thought doing this redirect.
Have you ever not a content audit, but have you ever decided or have seen that, what, Google is not indexing these pages, or is even dropping pages from the index, and so we need to take action in the context of a audit or whatever, and we need to delete even some of these pages?
Yes, of course. The deletion and optimization is coming as well. Especially when you see that the page, a certain group of pages that are not performing and not getting any impressions, obviously they need to be removed at some point. But at the same time, there are quite a lot of things that you can do to improve improve the crawl budget, like performance as well. So the performance actually provides twofold benefits. One is the better core web vitals providing the higher ranks, and the second is the better page load and the more efficient page load is saving your crawl budget and reducing the number of queries that search bots, Google bot needs to query your website to get the page. It actually has quite big benefits, especially for large websites.
Okay, that's a good point. Another one that I would like to another point that I would like to discuss, which I find to be a very big challenge, but I would like to hear your thoughts, is localization. Your website targets people living in different countries, speaking different languages. What are the main learning points you have by translating and localizing your website, and how do you approach SEO in all these different countries / languages?
Yeah, well, it's a very big beast, localization, because currently with Kiwi we support over 30 languages. When I was working at HotelScan, we were supporting 72 languages. It's fun, like when you need to understand that, like there's like different markets and they all need to be optimized at some point. And but the beauty of the travel sector, that the clients are really, the client experience is really homogeneous. For a lot of a lot of markets, especially if you speak about the European markets and so on, it's very much the same. So the overall user flow and the way how we build the landing pages, they do not need to be customized that much.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So the basic setup for the localization team, and it's just making sure that there are local experts and then you actually don't translate the keywords, the main keywords that you're targeting, word by word. So the keywords need to be really customized, because some people in Hungary don't search for, let's say, cheap flights. They search for just other combination, like just flights.
I understand. What you're saying is that the fact that like a person from the US, for example, may be searching for cheap flights doesn't mean that this is the same way, the exact same way that a person from, I don't know, Spain will search for cheap flights online. Maybe they will use a different combination. And I guess this goes back to like how we use language. And I have seen some great examples of that. A website I can think of is Canva, which has done a tremendous job with SEO and localization in particular. And I've studied their website a lot when it comes to how they like translate things and how they let's say transform keywords from one language to another. And I think that what you're saying makes sense. But as I see it, only a person who actually a local like would be able to spot this difference and tell you that no, like in Hungary, we don't search for cheap flights like that. We will use this phrase.
Exactly. So you need to have a lot of, let's say, at least one local expert for each language, and ideally even for each market. And that's one challenge. The second challenge is declensions, like name declensions and like city declensions, and various modifications of the words. Because, for example, in Czech Republic or in Ukraine, we don't search for, let's say, flights from, let's say, from Kiev to New York. It's going to be like from Kyivo do New Yorku. We don't say Kiev. It's like
Okay.
So you need to have the endings in the word, and this endings are different. And the same thing for many other languages, like for Slavic languages like Czech or Polish, Hungarian as well. So there are a lot of different variations that you need to take into account. Therefore, when you automatically translate the keywords in your title or whatever in the text of the message, you have to create not a single string, but actually like 4 or 5 strings for the localization for each city name, which is also quite interesting challenge, and then there's another thing that you need to do is actually a lot of quality control at the end for the translation.
Yeah, definitely. But do you handle that in-house, or do you outsource the whole process, or how does it work?
In-house. The reason why it's done in-house is because of the complexity of the internal systems. So we cannot. It's going to be quite hard to actually integrate an agency into the whole engineering workflow to actually do the localizations.
Yeah, because in your case, SEO seems to be very, very close to product, so it's quite challenging. I can only assume for people inside the company, like work together and collaborate, let alone an external resource to collaborate as well. I would like to shift gears a bit and discuss something slightly different, which is paid search. And my question would be, I can only assume that, since there is competition on an organic search level, there is definitely competition on a paid search level.
Absolutely.
And my question would be, how do you use insights you get from paid search to inform your organic search strategies?
Well, unfortunately, we don't use it as much as we want. there's a lot of opportunities to do it, but since the maturity of the SEO organization within Kiwi is not reaching this level, the let's say the usage of this SEM data currently is not as heavy as I want to. But at the same time, I see a lot of great opportunities in cooperation between SEM and SEO, because Google Ads, when you search, or just any sort of keyword research, will give you only a part of partial data. It's not going to give you a lot of deep insights on, let's say, search volumes or the way how this or that keyword will convert. But with SEM, you can actually get the real world data, especially in the long tail keywords. So the capturing of this data is actually one of the biggest challenges, because obviously you can imagine what a complex system has to be there to actually feed Google with so many keywords and create so many different campaigns and then monitor them, and so it's just a huge thing in itself to build such a big engine, and then build the data component into it so that you actually be able to capture the data, store it in somewhere, let's say in BigQuery or in some sort of database, and then analyze it with various tools. So I think the biggest challenge right now for us is actually being able to capture this data, analyze it properly, and make sure that we use this data in our prioritization of the landing pages and throughout the decision-making process in SEO.
I think that's an important point, because prioritization, especially in such a big website, is something very important, because I assume that there are so many ideas and opportunities and things that you would like to do, but at the end of the day, you really have to think about impact and what would help the company grow, and what will actually have an impact on the company's bottom line. And so you have to prioritize. And I mean, in some cases, I find paid search to be let's say, a helper in that direction to prioritize initiatives, SEO initiatives. Now, as we are ready to start wrapping things up, I would like to ask you, you are obviously a veteran and an expert in what you do, and SEO is working up until this point really well for many businesses, and I think that it has really transformed many businesses and even industries online. But we have the rise of all these technologies, new technologies like Chat GPT, GPT-3.
Have you been experimenting with this?
GPT-4, yeah, I have. And I guess my question is, where do you see SEO in the next 10, 20 years? I mean, and I ask this question a lot, and I really think about these things. My question, I guess, is, will there be anything left for us to do? And how do you see the landscape, the SEO landscape, transform in the future?
Well, I think that we'll see a lot of niche experts, because what I see from Google and working with various niches as well, because what I see is that Google actually makes quite different SEO for various niches. Like for travel, it's one thing. For PDF segment, it's a different thing. For like e-commerce goods, whatever, it's so there will be like a lot of niche expertise that is accumulated over time. And what I see that Google is starting to deviate much more across this different industry segments. This is one direction that I feel that this is going to be quite obvious and more obvious than it is now in let's say 20 years. And the second thing is the overall work with content. It's also going to change because with the technology advancing so fast, the way how we approach the content will be quite different than what we have now.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago, I was working as a freelancer back then, and I was experimenting with a tool that was, generating content with the help of AI. And I remember back then, the reaction of one of my very few clients was, this is dangerous. Like, you should stay away from this stuff. Now, the perception about these tools and generative content starts to change. People are not as, especially if they are like, price sensitive, they are open to experimenting with AI and see, the potential of these tools. And so I think that since there is a shift in perception, there will definitely be a shift in the like overall way of doing things when it comes to content. And I think that this is, there's no question of if this is going to happen. It's happening
Question
right
when.
now.
Yeah, question when.
It's happening right now. And the fascinating thing about these technologies is that they're picking up really, really fast. And I don't know. I guess at some point we will have to accept it. And like the same way we have authors under every piece of content, we may have to explain that, 90% of this piece of content has been generated by AI, which is ethical to say that, just so you know, if you're reading this, it was written by AI. Okay. So unavoidably, I think that we will, move towards that direction. I don't know what your thoughts are, but
yeah, definitely. We will have this this part of this is going to be a big part of SEO ecosystem, the AI content.
Yeah,
and I think what we see a lot is just we're going to have a lot of shifts from content into engineering, because basically you will not start writing, you start programming the content.
That's a very good point. And maybe we will have many content writers like
content programmers, or something like that.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, who knows?
Especially given all the languages and all the there's already a niche for language experts who are language engineers. It's a very big growing field. Especially like handling the challenges like Kiwi has, for example, like with all the declensions of cities and changing the sentences or algorithmically produced phrases and languages and so on. It's huge.
Yeah, it's definitely huge. Let's see. Excited about the future. A bit, skeptical, but at the same time excited about it. Last question I have for you, Andriy. Where can people find out more and reach out if they'd like to?
Sure. My LinkedIn profile, it's always up to date. linkedin.com/en/Terentyev, my last name.
Okay, we will include it in the show notes.
So plus my email as well is Andriy@terentyev.net. So that's my.
That's great. That's easy. Great. Andriy, that was all very insightful. Thank you very much for joining us. And looking forward to a future discussion.
Awesome. Thank you for having me here. And I really enjoyed the talk with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Before you go, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, you can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free.